The snow fell softly that December evening, coating the city in white. Daniel Morrison held his daughter's hand as they walked through the park. Sophie was 6 years old, bundled in her purple coat and red knit hat, her matching scarf wrapped snug around her neck. They'd just finished their weekly tradition, dinner at the little Italian place on Main Street, the one that made Sophie's favorite spaghetti. Just the two of them, like it had been since her mother passed 3 years ago. "Daddy, look," Sophie said, tugging his hand. "Why is that lady sleeping on the bench?" Daniel stopped. Through the falling snow, he could see a young woman slumped on a park bench. She wore a red coat, but it looked thin for such weather. A beige blanket was wrapped around her, and she held something against her chest. A baby. The child couldn't have been more than a few months old. Daniel's first instinct was to keep walking. You see things in the city. You learn not to get involved. But Sophie was pulling him closer, her small boots crunching in the fresh snow. "Daddy, she's shivering," Sophie whispered. "And the baby too." Daniel knelt beside the bench. The woman's eyes were closed, her face pale. She couldn't have been more than 23 or 24. Long brown hair fell across her face. The baby, wrapped in what looked like a worn blanket, was crying. A soft, weak sound that broke something in Daniel's chest. "Miss," he said gently, touching her shoulder. "Miss, are you all right?" Her eyes opened slowly. They were brown, exhausted. When she saw Daniel and Sophie, she tried to sit up straighter, tried to look more alert. "We're fine," she said. Her voice was hoarse. "Just resting." "It's 15 degrees out here," Daniel said. "You can't stay here." "We don't have anywhere else," she said simply. No drama, no plea, just a fact, stated quietly. Sophie moved closer. "Is your baby cold?" she asked. The woman looked at Sophie, and her eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, she is." Daniel stood there for a moment. He thought about his own warm apartment, about Sophie's bedroom with the night light shaped like a moon, about the spare room he kept meaning to convert into an office but never got around to. He thought about what his late wife, Catherine, would say. She'd always seen people, really seen them, not their circumstances, but their humanity. "I have a guest room," Daniel heard himself say. "It's not much, but it's warm. You and your baby can stay tonight. At least get out of this weather." The woman stared at him. I couldn't." "Please," Sophie said, her voice small but certain. "Our house is nice, and I have stuffed animals the baby could play with." The woman looked between them. Daniel could see her wrestling with pride, with fear, with desperation. Finally, she nodded. "Just for tonight," she said. "My name is Lauren Hayes. And this is Lily." The walk home was quiet. Lauren moved slowly, clearly exhausted. Daniel carried her small bag. It was surprisingly light. Everything she owned, he realized, fit in one worn duffel. At the apartment, Sophie immediately took charge. She brought blankets, her own warm pajamas for Lauren, and a soft stuffed rabbit for baby Lily. Daniel heated soup and made sandwiches while Lauren sat at the kitchen table, Lily sleeping against her shoulder. "The guest room is down the hall," Daniel said, setting a bowl of soup in front of her. "Clean sheets on the bed." "The bathroom is next door." Lauren picked up the spoon with a shaking hand. "Thank you," she said. "I know you don't know me. I know I know how this looks." "You don't have to explain," Daniel said. "Just eat, get warm." But later, after Sophie was asleep, Lauren did explain. Not because Daniel asked, but because she seemed to need to tell someone. She'd been living with her boyfriend, Lily's father. When the baby came, he left. Just walked out one day and didn't come back. Lauren had tried to keep their apartment, but without his income, she couldn't make rent. She had no family. Her parents had passed when she was young. She'd been raised in foster care. "I had a job," she said, sitting in Daniel's living room, Lily asleep in her arms. "At a grocery store. But when Lily got sick and I missed too many shifts, they let me go. I've been looking for work, but nobody wants to hire someone with a baby and no childcare." She looked down at Lily. "I'm a good mother," she said quietly. "I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. I love her so much." "I can see that," Daniel said. And he could. It was in the way Lauren held the baby, in the way she'd wrapped her own coat around Lily to keep her warmer. The next morning, Daniel made breakfast. Pancakes, Sophie's favorite. Lauren came out of the guest room looking better, rested. She'd showered and was wearing the clean clothes Daniel had left out. Catherine's clothes, from the box he'd never been able to give away. "I should go," Lauren said. "You've been so kind, but I can impose." "Where will you go?" Daniel asked. Lauren was quiet. They both knew the answer. Sophie, eating pancakes at the table, looked up. "Can't she stay, Daddy, until she finds a job?" Daniel looked at his daughter, 6 years old and wiser than him. "The guest room is yours," he said to Lauren. "Stay as long as you need. No rent. Just help with Sophie after school sometimes, if you can. And when you find work, we'll figure something out." Lauren started crying. "I don't understand why you're doing this." Daniel thought about that. "A few years ago, my wife got sick. Cancer. We didn't have much money, and the medical bills piled up. Our neighbors, people we barely knew, they took up a collection, paid for 3 months of rent, brought us meals, watched Sophie when I had to take Catherine to treatments." He paused. "Catherine always said kindness is meant to be passed on, not paid back, but passed forward." The weeks turned into months. Lauren found a job at a local coffee shop. The owner, Mrs. Chen, let her bring Lily to work in a playpen behind the counter. Daniel would drop Sophie at school, then watch Lily until Lauren's shift ended. Sophie and Lily became like sisters. The apartment filled with laughter again, with life. Daniel found himself looking forward to coming home, to the sound of voices, to the smell of dinner cooking. Lauren was a good cook. She'd make simple meals, nothing fancy, but everything made with care. On Sunday mornings, she'd bake bread. The smell would fill the entire apartment. One evening, about 4 months after that snowy night in the park, Daniel came home to find Lauren crying at the kitchen table. She had a letter in her hands. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Mrs. Chen is selling the coffee shop," Lauren said. "The new owners want to run it differently. They don't want a baby there." She looked at Daniel. "I've been saving. I almost have enough for a security deposit on a small place. But without this job." Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I've been thinking. The building where I work, they're looking for a receptionist. The pay is decent. They have childcare on site, subsidized for employees." "Daniel, I couldn't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Come in Monday. I'll introduce you to HR." Lauren got the job. Within 2 months, she'd saved enough for her own apartment. It was small, just 1 bedroom, but it was hers. She cried when she signed the lease. "You don't have to leave," Daniel said when she told him. "There's no rush." "I know," Lauren said, "but I need to do this. I need to stand on my own feet. For Lily, so she knows her mother is strong." Daniel understood. "You've always been strong," he said. "From the moment I met you on that bench, keeping your baby warm, keeping going. That's the strongest thing I have ever seen." On moving day, Sophie cried. "But I'll miss Lily," she said, hugging the baby. "We'll see them all the time," Daniel promised. Lauren's apartment is just 10 minutes away, and they did. Every Sunday, they had dinner together, sometimes at Daniel's place, sometimes at Lauren's. Sophie and Lily grew up together, celebrating birthdays, holidays, small victories. Years later, when Lily was 5 and Sophie was 11, they all went back to that park. It was winter again, snow falling just like that first night. "This is where we met your dad," Lauren told Lily, pointing to the bench. "He and Sophie saved us." "You saved yourself," Daniel said. "We just gave you a warm place to rest while you did." Lauren smiled. "You gave me more than that. You gave me back my faith in people. You showed me that there's still kindness in this world." Sophie, older now but still wise, said, "Mommy used to say that kindness is like a light. One person lights a candle, and it helps them see. But when they use that candle to light someone else's, the whole world gets brighter." Daniel looked at his daughter. She'd been so young when Catherine died, but she'd held on to her mother's words, her mother's heart. "Your mother was right," he said, pulling Sophie close. As they walked home through the snow, Daniel thought about that December night 4 years ago. How close he'd come to just walking past that bench. How easy it would have been to tell himself it wasn't his problem. But Sophie had stopped him. Sophie, with her child's clarity, had seen a person who needed help. And in helping Lauren, they'd helped themselves. They'd rebuilt their family. Not the same as before, but something new and good. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply notice. Notice the person on the bench, notice the cold, notice the baby crying, and then do the next right thing. The next right thing might be offering a warm place to sleep, a meal, a chance. Sometimes that small act of noticing, of caring, changes everything, not just for the person you help, but for yourself, for your children, for the world.